Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today, we're going to be going over the hex that is the odd man out of the trio. It's called Hex Siphon. Hex Siphon seems like a very strange one, and I'm not sure that anybody's really ever going to use this skill. It might be something that they need to revisit at some point because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It seems to be poorly designed. I'm going to kind of like go over why it's poorly designed. Let's talk about the skill itself first, though, and then I'll smack talk it afterwards. So Hex Siphon is an ability that allows you to imbue your weapon with a hex. And once imbued with a hex, you can clearly see that the ability is hexed because it makes your weapon glow kind of like a bluish green. When you hit somebody with this, you hex the monster. The hexes can be used in combination with curses, which I have tested. It gives you negative 33% enemy damage, which reduces the amount of damage that the monster deals by 33%. The duration is 6.2 seconds at level 29, and you can potentially make it longer, but I don't know why you would. Attack rating bonus is 272, which seems to be on par with the other two hexes, Hex Purge and Hex Bane. Both give about the same amount of attack rating min maxed out, so there's really not much difference there. Mana after each kill of 49, but only if you spend 40 skill points to get it. It has a synergy that gives you like +1 mana after each kill and +1 life after each kill for spending an Engorge. And the more points you spend, the more you get. So if you get 20 points in Engorge, you basically get a 49 life to mana after each kill and mana after each kill. Now, mana after each kill and life after each kill are actually pretty decent effects, but they're not something that you usually build in excess on characters that can life and mana leech. So if you are a melee character or a ranged character, you can basically just like mana and life leech most of what you're getting anyway. And so, for the most part, when you deal with this particular hex, it seems kind of poorly designed. This is the point where I'm going to smack talk Hex Siphon. So, first off, the enemy damage negative 33% seems like it would be kind of neat for making your character survive, but the truth of the matter is it doesn't really do that very well. If you go to the weaken page, which has the same exact effect, it states that weaken will reduce the physical attack damage of a monster by 33%. Notice it says physical damage. It doesn't reduce elemental. No lightning, no fire, no ice, no magic, no poison. On top of this, also in the absence of +% damage only, which means that if a monster has might aura, fanaticism, concentration, extra strong, or anything else that counts as +% damage, like champion modifiers, and so forth and so on, that it basically, instead of reducing the monster's damage by 33%, it just simply reduces their plus percentage by 33%, which is relatively nothing at all. In other words, that 33% negative damage bonus that's on Hex Siphon does relatively nothing. Then let's get to the meat and potatoes of the mana after each kill and the life after each kill. I'm not going to lie to you and say that mana after each kill and life after each kill are bad stats, but they're generally something that you build more on a sorceress, a caster type, someone that doesn't have melee attacks, because they work very well on those characters. You can potentially build them on ranged and melee characters, but it's usually if you have like no way to actually leech mana and life normally. Because if you're a physical damage melee or a physical damage ranged character, you can just leech all the mana and life that you want, which would kind of relegate this only to one subset of ranged and melee characters, which is melee and ranged characters that are doing non-physical damage. And I mean, I guess if you're a melee and ranged character doing non-physical damage, there could be limited usefulness here. But the main problem with this is that most of the characters in the game don't want it. It's mana after each kill and life after each kill also doesn't help you versus bosses. It doesn't help you versus really challenging single target monsters. It's only going to help you when you're doing like cow level or when you're doing like, chaos runs and you're killing tons of monsters at a really fast pace. And even then, I can't really see myself using this. I would probably end up using Hex Bane or Hex Purge instead, which are far stronger. Hex Purge in particular does so much damage that, like, And I just really don't even know. Um, all in all, I think Hex Siphon is a miss. I haven't seen very misses on this character. I haven't seen very many things that are just like completely and utterly like, hey, this sucks balls. Like, don't use it. But Hex Siphon seems to be one of those things that kind of needs to be retouched. And it really just comes down to I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a siphon or a hex that basically allows you to survive better. But what they've created is a siphon or a hex that would work really good for a caster, but the casters can't use it because it doesn't work for casting abilities. It only works for melee and ranged. So they have a really good ability that would be great for a caster, but the casters actually can't use it. And then let's talk about it in its lesser form. So the form that I showed you was if you actually dedicated a large number of points to it, which is something that you're probably not going to do. If you look at it in its lesser form, which is a 1-point wonder form, it only has 8 mana after each kill and 8 life after each kill, which is extremely low. The attack rating is also very low, and the enemy damage stays the same. And in general, Hex Siphon becomes very poor. Even if you dedicate 20 points into Hex Siphon, it still doesn't really get the necessary amount of mana after each kill and life after each kill to be super duper useful. It only goes up to 27 as opposed to 49. The only way you get that 49 that I was showing you earlier is to put 20 more points into Engorge on the Demon Tree. I don't really see this one being useful or even something that most people are going to build into. In fact, for the most part, I think this skill is going to go relatively untouched for the entirety of Diablo 2 Reign of the Warlock. If they were to readjust this skill and make it better, a couple things that I would say is that mana after each kill and life after each kill are kind of useless. Life Leech would be better. Mana Leech would be better. There's other things that they could potentially put here. You could put damage taken goes to mana. That would be very useful. You could put replenish life. That would be very useful. You could put absorption of some kind. That would also be very useful. In general, it just doesn't really fulfill the purpose, which I think it was designed, which it was designed to make your character very tanky, and I just don't really think it really accomplishes that goal. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. We're going to be moving on to one of the other trees next, so it should be exciting. We finally finished all of the Eldritch tree. And as always, keep watching.